to be here. Thanks, thanks for the teams at between 10 and 5, and nice work for having me. Thrilled to be here. You're supposed to play a game at Creative Mornings. I find it a bit intimidating, sometimes a little bit too intimate in an intimate space. So let's do a mini game. What is my title of my talk this morning? To infinity and beyond. I'm getting there. When Ross invited me to talk for Creative Mornings, I said, sure, no problem. When he phoned me a couple of weeks ago and said, quick, I need the title of your talk on the theme of beyond, I had to scramble a little bit. And I have 2 kids under the age of 12. So for the last 10 years, my only frame of reference are Pixar and Disney movies. So all I could think of that had a beyond in it was to creativity and beyond, thanks to Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story. And then I just changed it from infinity and beyond to creativity and beyond. And isn't it great that the internet provides such amazing things? And do you know that that is actually an international symbol for creativity? Infinity and creativity. And I've adopted it. I'm a creative creature at heart. Living a creative life hasn't been difficult for me. It has come naturally. And it's evident in the decisions that I've made in my life and in my career. I am not one with an artistic talent. That is my drawing of a person. I'm neither for the stage. I'm not a creative artist as such. But I felt creativity strongly, so I followed my love and passion and worked in commercial creativity to get as close to the creative endeavor as I could, and pursued a career primarily in advertising. I've worked in marketing, I've worked on the client side, I've worked within agencies, I've worked as close to the arts as I could be so that I could be close to the creative endeavor. And I love what a fairly unknown madman of the 50s and 60s called Carl Alley had to say about creative people. The creative person wants to be a know-it-all. They want to know about quantum physics. They want to know about flower arranging. They want to know about the stock market. Because creative people never know when these ideas may come together to form a new idea. It could be 6 minutes, it could be 6 hours, it could be 6 years. But creative people have faith that it will happen. And that's probably why we all do Creative Mornings, because we are believers and passionate about creativity and about gleaning ideas from the world around us. And that's, I guess, what I do. I glean ideas from the world around me all the time. I'm an aesthete. I am a people lover. I'm a life lover. I have so much to do, and it only drives me further to do more. I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about my husband, and my 2 little rock stars challenge my levels of creative leadership every day. I'm also passionate about shoes, but apparently I'm not allowed to talk about that. I'm also passionate about the side project. Viva the side project. Viva the passion project. Viva the social change project. Isn't it amazing that we get the opportunity to apply our creativity to others? Isn't it great that we can join or create or start things that are fun and ambitious and amazing and have the opportunity to impact the lives around us? This is probably the best, the most fun side project I ever could have done, could have started, could have been involved with, and that is to make women feel amazing on their matric dance, to allow them to shop in a shop for everything they wish for, and when they get to the till, the cost is nothing, except other than to pay forward what they've received to their communities. I give back primarily through mentorship. I love working with young artists who want to be self-sustaining, who want to understand what it means to have a creative endeavor and then translate it into something that they can pass on to something else and make a living. My time at the Artist Proof Studios is rewarding. I feel passionate, I feel involved, and I feel like change is coming. So where did it all start? I've spent the majority of my career at Ogilvy and Mather. I started off, I have to admit, working for the Spur Group. I won't talk about that. I then went on to Ogilvy and Mather, right foot, Saltrop and Macon, where the most talented person in the building was the receptionist, who had to say that 100 times a day. And it was at Ogilvy and Mather for 5 years that I really learned about working hard and playing hard. And I worked on amazing brands such as Volkswagen and Cape Talk. After that, I followed my heart and went to live in this fairly shabby place in Switzerland called Lausanne. And there I worked for British American Tobacco. And I would say there I lived a life of constraints. Now, at British American Tobacco, working on tobacco taught me very important creative lessons. How to work within constraints. The freedom of the tight brief. There is no other industry that has as tight a legislation and as tight controls as to what you can and can't do. And yet this released the most phenomenal levels of creativity and taught me valuable lessons about thinking within boundaries. It also taught me that I am a South African and I wanted to come and live in the chaos that is Africa once again. And so again, following heart and head, came back to South Africa and rejoined Ogilvy and Mather. It was while I was at Ogilvy that I had a bit of an epiphany about the industry, and I couldn't understand something about it. I couldn't understand that why was it that we in the creative industries were not doing for ourselves the kind of revolutionary, creative, exceptional work that we were doing for our clients, for our own business and our own industry. And it was with a fair amount of chutzpah and guts that I went to Nunan Chingila at the time, who was the CEO, and I said, Nunu, you know what? I think we need to be the demonstration of our own competency. I think we should have the best and most compelling shop window out there. I think we must be the change we want to see. And I want to be the CMO of Ogilvy and Mather in South Africa. And being the visionary woman that she is, she said, go for it. And so I did. And being a CMO or a marketing lead for a creative agency, to most people sounds counterintuitive. But it's actually not. And I've gone to prove this when I wrote my thesis at the Berlin School of Creative Leadership. What this taught me was that your dream job does not exist. You have to create it. You can't sit around and wait for that dream job that you've always wanted to come along. You have the opportunity and hopefully enough chutzpah to make it happen for you. And then I took a leap beyond myself and reapplied post-40 to do an MBA. I got into the Berlin School of Creative Leadership in Berlin and went on a 3.5-year journey of fighting the tyranny of the average, working with creative leaders from all over the world to understand more and more about what creativity means in the world and how to be a creative leader by unlocking creativity and creative industries as the most incredible opportunities for change and development. And last June, July, after sweat and tears, time away from family and friends, I graduated with a bunch of crazies. And I wanted to share with you 5 of my key lessons from the MBA journey. These were lessons from beyond the books. This was not in my accounting or economics or philosophy books. These are what I learned from my peers. These are the lessons I learned on the run, on the plane, and from some of the most extraordinary creative minds you can imagine. This was a postcard someone gave to me in Berlin. This friend shared this postcard with me and another group of us who just the day before had been sitting bemoaning, as we do around the water cooler, about our jobs, our lives, the things that we were unhappy with, the quality of the course at the time. And she gave this to me, and it's been an incredible 3-liner impact. So simple, but so true. Relevant for work, relevant for relationships, relevant for our country, relevant for everything. Love it, change it, or leave it. The second thing, I got a whole new perspective on the customer and on the client. And I realized that the thing we need to give such attention to, if you work in creative industries, if you work in marketing or advertising, is not to be so caught up in your own creative endeavor that you forget the people that you're doing it for or you're doing it with. And I remembered that if you focus clearly and rally around the customer experience, and I learned a lot about service design at this stage, something that I think is going to and is already revolutionizing the marketing environment. When we were at Berkeley, there was an incredible professor. He put this exact slide up, and I asked him for it a few days later. He said to us, and he was a passionate surfer, this is out at the Mavericks in California, where some of the biggest waves come once a year. So huge that the surfers have to be pulled up by jet skis up to the top of the wave to catch it all the way down. And he used waves as the analogy of the change that has hit the world in the last 20 to 30 years. The wave of technology, the wave of digital transformation. And he said basically you have 3 options. You can watch it, just like the guys on the surf skis at the front, on the jet skis. You can ride it, get on that wave and go for it. And if you're lucky, and if you're visionary, and if you're brave enough, work out a way to create it. And these were 3 incredibly powerful thoughts, which led me to think more and more about how we deal with the change that comes our way. This was an aha moment for me. It was when we did a Harvard business case on the Saatchi brothers. These are the Saatchi brothers, also famous ad men. And what was the aha moment for me? Well, it was something that they did once a week. They would close their door. They would get into their office and they would work on how on earth they were going to transfer what was a passion business, or what was a passion, into a business. And how did they do that? They sat down and spoke about how they were going to market their business. They spoke about how they were going to keep the clients they had, and how they were going to get new clients, and how they were going to use PR and other antics to let people know more and more about Saatchi and Saatchi. This thought would continue with me right up until the point where I decided on my thesis topic. And finally, this very simple 3-letter word, or 3 letters, these simple 3 letters. In my MBA class, I had a lovely girl by the name of Jackie Walker, who sat next to me. Jackie is the granddaughter of the legacy that is Walker Biscuits. Many of you might have seen their boxes in Pick n Pay, in Woolworths or Thraps. You might have seen them at Duty Free, Walker's Biscuits. Scottish confectionery all the way from just outside Edinburgh. A huge, massive company in the UK. And Jackie was their creative director. And she told us a story how her grandfather, at 75 years old, who came into the office every day, had these 3 letters embroidered into his shirts by a shirt maker. He also had them embossed in gold on his notebooks and on his wallet. He also had his leather chair in his office, embroidered and embossed with the 3 letters QFA. Who wants to guess what QFA means? Anybody? What's that? Questions for something? Anyone else? I love the image of the 75-year-old man in his 3-piece suit, which means quit fucking around. And it gave me a huge kick up the you-know-what. And And I set off thinking if the 75-year-old man sitting in a castle in Edinburgh uses this as his daily mantra, then I best get going. And so I hit the books. How intimidating entering the world of academia. And I set about my research project. And I guess I went through the typical creative process. I started out, I thought my topic was fantastic. I thought I was so clever, it was also awesome. Then I realized as I got further and further into the case studies that this was quite tricky and I was a bit out of my depth. And then it was all really crap when everyone else was going out and I wasn't. And then of course I was crap. Nothing I could do right. And then suddenly as I got through the process and came out the other side with a wonderful supervisor, Elaine Rumble, in Cape Town, I suddenly started to realize that this might be okay. It was looking good. And of course, by the time I handed in 350 pages of work, I didn't care what it looked like. It was just awesome. And so that typical process was what I went through. And this was what my thesis was on. I looked at whether advertising agencies are like the proverbial cobbler's children who have no shoes. I wanted to understand whether those that successfully market and innovate for others do the same for themselves. This paradox, this metaphor, we all know so well. It's part of the human condition. And actually what it's about is when we have expertise or knowledge in something and we hold it really dearly and really well and work on it really hard for others, sometimes not giving either the effort to do it for ourselves or often can't see that it's us who may need it most. And so I was fascinated how this human trait manifested in professional services companies, particularly in creative businesses. Another way to explain it, just as a metaphor as it is, this is William Shakespeare, and this is his daughter. She was illiterate. And we understand this phenomenon to be true, that sometimes we do for others more than we do for self. And it was David Ogilvy who wrote this in his book in the 80s, but actually had stated it years before. If you can't advertise yourself, what hope have you of being able to advertise anything else? Now, of course, today's modern companies do way more than advertise, but the sentiment was the same. We tend to create for others, especially in creative businesses, before we create for self. So where did I find answers in my research paper? I asked Uno and Ross if I could present the full 350-page findings, but apparently that wasn't a good idea, and I'm already under the time whip. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet and give you my key findings. Firstly, I found answers in South Africa. Why would South Africa have relevance in a global MBA? Well, the reality is that the South African context is actually a wonderful microcosm of the creative world. We have a good mix of independent and networked agencies and creative businesses. We punch way above our creative weight. And we also had accessibility to creative leaders in these fields. And the key findings were, of course, that agencies do see themselves anecdotally as the cobbler's children with no shoes. We obsess more about our clients' end customers than we do about our clients. We do so much work, we do so much work, but we tend to do very little for ourselves. And the data supported this. It supported that agencies gave low prioritization, ironically, to the very business innovation and marketing that they give to their clients. I collected board agendas from creative businesses around South Africa, and only on one did I find marketing and innovation on the agenda. The golden number for marketing spend around the world, if you look at CMO studies, the golden number, depending on industry, is around 10 to 11%. Agencies on the whole in South Africa spend less than 2%. Only 20% of the agencies I spoke to had a marketing person that was responsible, or person that was responsible for marketing in their organization, and of them, only half were experienced or had a background in marketing, PR, or advertising. But the one thing that all the agencies were clear on is that it was in the ether, and it was done by instinct, not by planning. And they all agreed that they wanted to do more often, and be better at it. And there was an overall sense of frustration that they weren't doing it for a start. This leader said, we just need to give it more focus. We have the competency. We hold the competency. It's about the acknowledgement of importance. It's about intention. So I looked into reasons, why do we do this? Why don't creative businesses give this more prominence? Well, this is the first thing everybody will tell me. No time, no money, no resource. But this is actually a proxy for prioritization. When things that we hold are important, we get to them. The other thing from creative industries is our work is our marketing. The idea, especially for creative people, that marketing is institutional bureaucracy, and its creative output is all you need. You do need creative output. You do need amazing work, but it's not always enough. And the other friend and enemy of creativity is the ego. And the ego works both ways. Ego works in that we hold on to what we do so dearly because we're too afraid to let it out and what people may think, so we tend to do little. And on the opposite end, we tend to do way too much, think we're too special, think we're too fantastic, and think we're too brilliant. The ad industry likes to be a clown at their own circus. And the other thing is that people wanted to tell their story and then realized, oh my goodness, I'm not really sure what that story is. I want to go out and talk about it, but I'm not really sure what I need to say. And then a very key statement which was made, which swung my insights in a completely new direction, and that was, it all depends on what kind of leader you are and where your strength lies. That had a massive impact on the way I was viewing my research, and I had a huge shift from the cobbler's children to the cobbler him or herself. And I identified 3 broad typologies of creative leaders within their attitude to marketing and innovation. I identified leaders who were marketing warriors, or culture creators, or dynamic disruptors, with 3 particular typologies about how they worked when it came to marketing, PR, and self-promotion. You had the marketing warriors, extroverts, with an understanding of marketing, probably even a background in marketing or vocational studies in marketing, advertising, or business. The culture creators often fell into the business or came directly out of the creative arts. These people were more inclined to build businesses of culture and build from the inside out. And finally, dynamic disruptors were businessmen in creative industries to make money and make a big difference. They weren't afraid to hire help, and they weren't afraid to fill in the gaps where their businesses needed it. So the amount, the degree, the spend, the veracity, the enthusiasm for marketing innovation became dependent on the leader archetype. And what does that mean? It's all about you. And so we deflect from the cobbler's children to the cobbler him or herself. And I want to share this quote by Blair Innes, who wrote the Pitch Manifesto, or how to win without pitching. He says, the revolution we must fight is within. There is no enemy. We are victims only of a creative mind that makes choosing a focus more difficult for us than most. Creative minds are busy being know-it-alls. Creative minds are being curious. It's hard to find focus. And the implications, finally, of the work that I did was really for myself and for every person that either leads or participates in creative endeavors is quite simply this: know yourself. Know who you are. If you can identify your blind spots and use insight to motivate action by either learning more than you know already, or practicing, or sometimes getting help, you have the opportunity to lead creatively and to be more present in your creative endeavors. So hire yourself with intention, or teach yourself something you don't know so you fill the blind spot that you have, or hire or ask for help. And this is the small niche that I'm finding, that from artist to agency, there's an opportunity for Mrs. Woolf to help fill that blind spot, to help businesses and creative endeavors who I want to survive and to thrive, because I believe creative endeavors hold the opportunity, the true opportunity for change. So come on, motivate yourself to go beyond. Motivate yourself within your endeavor, in your company, or within your own creative practice to go beyond, to use the very skills, the very tools you have to recalibrate your own endeavors, recalibrate your own business. You are the leader you've been looking for. And so, I hope this is useful in some way to put into your creative toolbox. And I have to thank Rosebank for this rubbish bin that, believe it or not, is out there on the walkways, which I stumbled across about 2 years ago. Creative activity could be described as a type of learning process where teacher and pupil are located in the same individual. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. My name is Nicola. I'm a management consultant, and I've been exploring this growing interest in design thinking. In fact, by the way, it's my first time at CreativeMornings.
Welcome.
Because of the because of this community co-working space. What I'm interested to know is that if there is increasing inquiry from business to incorporate creativity and creative thinking to solve complex problems, and really appreciate this need for creative industries to collaborate with business, because those companies that are embracing a more creative mindset are proving to be a lot more competitive in the world. Products and services that they develop. So I just like to take on that. Big question.
Yeah. They say that creativity is the new currency. And they say there's never been, as you said, a high demand for creative minds to link with business, to solve complex business problems. And everywhere you look, there is opportunities for incubators, for creative communities to partner with businesses, or to go more on the consulting side into design thinking, into service design. It's growing at a rapid pace. My concern around, and it's not a concern, is that I think what the creative industries are not doing enough, and it's my passion, is we're not singing our praises sufficiently, and we're not explaining enough to young people why a career in the creative industries is so critical and so important, so that we get the brightest thinkers and we get the keenest minds into creativity. Whereas what we tend to do, and certainly in the current school and education system, is we seem to applaud the sciences, maths, science. There's not enough focus on the arts and about free creative thinking. And I think to fill the pipelines of the kind of thinking that you're talking about, I think the focus has to go back into education and back into promoting creativity and the creative arts as the very best and most important place for bright minds to be.
There's a question over here, or there as well.
So there's a lot of young people in the room.
what would your advice be to
Thanks.
So when you
Creativity is ageless, Mark. Ageless.
so when you took the idea to Lunu about you wanting to sort of promote Ogilvy and market Ogilvy and become the CMO, what would your advice be to someone in the room who feels that their agency is not doing things that you say that they should be doing more of? And what would your advice be to someone who should take that to a leader and say, like, you need to change the way that you're marketing this agency for this supply in a world that is changing so rapidly and going more technologically and so.
Am I allowed to regurgitate your story? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll take the question on two levels. The first thing is, what should you do as a young person? And the second thing is, how would you convince a leader to invest or change or be more interested in innovating within your own business? So to answer the first question, quite a few years ago, I was sitting in my office at Ogilvy and Mather, and a young guy stuck his head in the door and said to me, "Hi, I'm not sure if you know who I am, but I work as a developer upstairs in the digital division, but I'm completely obsessed and interested in the Ogilvy and Mather brand, and I love the work that you do, and I'm prepared to work on the weekends, I'm prepared to work on the evenings, if you would just give me a few projects to work on." And that was Mark Zeller, who just asked that question. Mark did work with me for no money directly. He did work on weekends and he did work in the evenings, and after not very long I went to the then CEO, A.B. Mohotsane, and I said, "A.B., I'm begging you for some spend to hire this guy into marketing and get him out of the digital doldrums upstairs." And A.B. could see the passion that I had, and he could see the work that Mark had done, and he agreed. Mark and I worked together for years, and he's now a young up-and-coming executive at Facebook. So we're back to the chutzpah comment. We're back to the bravery. We're back to having a passion and idea, and that light that shines in your eyes when you're really interested and passionate about doing something. So on that point, have some chutzpah. Take a chance and show what you're worth, sometimes for nothing. On the second question, what I would say is that while us Gen Xers work damn hard, the young millennials know so much. You guys are integrally linked to the interwebs. You have so much information at your fingertips. You have access and energy for new ideas. All I would say is craft them to a point where you think that they will make a difference and add value. Prettiness is not always a business. Prettiness doesn't always add value. Think of ideas that maximize value, and when you have them, when you have ideas that you believe will fundamentally change a business or an enterprise, when you think that they will either win new business, keep current business, or attract more talent, walk into your boss's office and present them. Well done, Mark.